The first ever WWE Clash at the Castle is in the books from the, what was the name of that building again? Principalities Stadium or whatever in Cardiff, Wales. Without a question, one of the best wrestling crowds of the year. They were into everything, and if every wrestling show had a crowd like this, they would all be amazing because they were into everything, yo. If you did not see this show, I would highly recommend you go out of your way to see it. There was a lot of good stuff on this show, headlined by Roman Reigns and Drew McIntyre, who tore the house down. Like I said, the people of Cardiff got a really good show, and they were a really great crowd. Great crowd. So they actually had a match on the pre-show, which I was not really expecting that they were going to do. It was Madcap Moss and the Street Profits, and they beat Austin Theory and Alpha Academy. That was probably just to get those guys in the card. And I want to say this before we get into the main card. I really love this show, and I love the atmosphere and the crowd, so I kind of want WWE to go to Cardiff once a year. I kind of want them to go to Cardiff once a year because once a year, I think wouldn't hurt. And if they draw a crowd like this, they claimed it was 62,000 people, but usually they overinflate those numbers. Usually it's about 50,000, but like because that would match up. They usually increase it by 10,000, but that was when Vince was in charge. Now that Triple H in charge, that might actually be the real number. We'll know in the upcoming conference calls whenever that comes out. Then we had Bayley, Io Sky, and Dakota Kai. They beat the Raw Women's Champion Bianca Belair, Alexa Bliss, and Asuka in the first match of the night. This match went almost 20 minutes, got plenty of time, and Bianca Belair was pinned by Bayley. So that's easily going to be setting up a upcoming championship match between the two, like Extreme Rules or whatever. And that's the right move because you want to have, if your champion loses in a tag match or a 6-man or 6-woman, whatever, you know what I mean? Then whoever pins them should be the next challenger. It makes perfect sense. Nothing crazy. Like I mentioned earlier, when it comes to this show, the booking, it was a good wrestling show in that the booking was solid all the way through. Most of the matches had clean finishes, and the ones that didn't were they set up something else. You know what I mean? They would set up something else for the future. So, and that's great booking, and we're going to get into it here in a minute because there's some interesting surprises on this show. The Intercontinental Champion Gunther fought Sheamus to retain the title. He beat him almost 20 minutes. Also, long match. This was stiff, bro. Sheamus's chest was freaking red. Walter had welt on his chest. These two guys really beat each other up, yo. They even did a spot where Sheamus did the Celtic cross from the top rope, and I thought that might have been the finish. He tried to do the bro kick, but he sold his back, and then Gunther hit him with a giant lariat for the pin. And so that's a clean win by Walter, a.k.a. Gunther, and also two members of the Imperium have now appeared besides Walter, so their forces are almost back to where they were. I popped because I love Imperium. SmackDown Women's Champion Liv Morgan versus Shayna Basler. This match was a hell of a lot better than I thought it was going to be. Obviously, Liv Morgan is not known for her work, although she has improved tremendously in the past year. Liv Morgan is one of the most improved women's wrestlers in the business. I feel like her and Britt Baker, maybe a year and a half ago, were really like, I don't want to say green, but just, kind of average, and then they turned it up. And I think that happens sometimes. Sometimes even if you're in the business for a few years, it takes a few more years for you to really understand your own character. I mean, look at Roman. Roman was never a bad worker, but he never really got it until he became this heel character. And now he's, tippy top. Everybody loves it because he's cast correctly. Sometimes it takes a few years before you actually figure yourself out, before you really get to know your character. That is what it is. Edge and Rey Mysterio versus Judgment Day. Good match, not a great match. I was hoping for the Edge Rey matches like from 2002, but of course these guys are much older and it's a different kind of match. More of a story-driven match. But it was basically Finn Balor and Damian Priest from Judgment Day here. And Edge won the match for the team. And then Dominic turns heel. He attacks Edge with a low blow and then lays out his father. So this has been built up for a while. They've had this idea of turning Dominic heel for like maybe almost 2 years. I know that during like the late 2020s, there was talk of Dominic going heel. Even back then, they would do a long-term storyline. And I remember hearing that Vicky Guerrero and Chavo Guerrero were going to be involved in it because it had to do with Eddie. But I believe that Vicky is still signed to AEW. I believe she is. And Chavo, I think, got moved to Ring of Honor, but I think he's still signed, so he might not be a part of this angle. Either way, Dominic did turn heel and got booed because the crowd was really into these guys. Seth Rollins versus Matt Riddle. Fantastic match. Probably the best match of the night. This and the main event were absolutely fantastic. And I love how the show didn't have that many matches, but every match got time. So these guys did some insane near falls, yo. We saw every move you could think of. We saw the Pele kick. We saw Seth bust out the pedigree. You know, we saw Seth bust out the, he did one of Loki's double stomps in the corner, the God's last gift. Like, we saw him do everything, man. Like, they really took it to each other. Obviously, that angle on Monday was just fantastic. Just really did a great job of getting this match over with me. So what ends up happening for the finish is Seth Rollins begins to mock Randy Orton. He hits the apron DDT or the draping DDT, and then he starts doing the motion for the RKO, but Riddle kind of twists it into a rear naked choke, and that was a great spot. That looked fantastic. Then Riddle grabs the chair, but then Rollins avoids it. Then Rollins hits a near fall. He's coming in. He's basically coming into the ring through the second rope, and he hits a small double stomp. And then he hit one from the top, from the second turnbuckle. Basically, Seth, not the top rope, the second turnbuckle. Seth got on the second turnbuckle and then jumped off and hit him with like a super curb stomp, and that was the 1, 2, 3. Clean finish, but I have a feeling this feud is not over. I don't think this feud is over. I think there's going to be more to come. I think they're going to have a rematch at Extreme Rules, and I think that Monday night on Raw is when we're going to get like the real, that's when we're going to get like the real, like rematch, like with gimmicks and stuff like that. Then we have our main event. They had this incredible video package for Drew McIntyre where they showed him like with his original music and his original run and footage of him kind of coming into WWE, then leaving or getting fired, then making a comeback. Like, his redemption story. They really played it up, folks, like Drew McIntyre could have won. In fact, this is the one match out of Roman's entire title run where I was thinking, okay, he's not going to win. Because the problem is that Roman wins almost everything, in the past couple of years he has. So it's like, who's going to beat him for that title? And it really felt like, because it was in Wales and it was Drew, it really felt like this might have been the night to do it, but they didn't go in that direction. What happens is, first of all, they have a great match. It went 30 minutes. I still feel like the Riddle-Seth Rollins match was a little bit better athletically, but these guys went at it. Old school wrestling match. The first part of it was all in ring. The Usos, Paul Heyman, or Sami Zayn, they weren't there. They were not there with Roman Reigns for this show. So the idea was he doesn't have any help. Of course, that changed. Crowd was really into all of this. So what happens is there's a spot where Drew McIntyre's on the outside and Karrion Kross throws like a water bottle on him, and then Reigns gets the advantage, and then he grabs the line, and he grabs the microphone, and he tells the crowd to acknowledge him, turns around and gets nailed with the Glasgow kiss. Like, it was nasty too, because it was like a hard collision, yo. Really good match. I mean, these guys, this is probably my favorite match between these two guys. They worked, and they've had a few on pay-per-view. They worked really, really hard, yo. So what happens is, Roman Reigns, so they set it up to where McIntyre went for the spear, but then Reigns, McIntyre went for the Claymore, but Reigns hit the spear, which was, I thought, a great spot to do the finish, but it was a near fall. I was surprised that he kicked out. They really fooled me there. So what ends up happening is Roman gets mad, yells at Charles Robinson, and then McIntyre hits the Claymore, and then when he hits it, Reigns hits the referee, and then Robinson's out of the ring. So then Austin Theory's music hits, and he runs down to the ring, and it's like, okay, we're going to have a cash-in. So I'm thinking, are they really going to give this away now? So what happens is he's about to cash in, but Tyson Fury, the boxer who they showed earlier in the night talking to Drew and Roman, punches. He knocks Austin Theory out. So he knocks him out, and so he can't cash in. So then in the ring, they start going back at it, kind of rebuild the momentum. And then what ends up happening is McIntyre hits another Claymore, and then all of a sudden somebody attacks pulls McIntyre out of the ring, and we don't know who it is. It looks like Jimmy and Jey Uso, but when he took off his hoodie and it was the blonde hair, it was neither one. It was Solo Sikoa, another Samoan from the bloodline, a new addition to the bloodline. Not the Usos, but related to them. What ends up happening is Charles Robinson gets back up, and McIntyre's distracted. He gets hung up. Roman hits the spear, 1, 2, 3. The fans were pretty damn pissed off. And then the weirdest thing happens. So Roman retains, and then Tyson Fury gets in the ring and shakes Reigns' hand. And I'm thinking he's going to attack Drew McIntyre. But that's not what happens. Roman goes to the back, and though it's done, Fury helps McIntyre to his feet. Now, again, I thought that was going to be like he was going to nail him. But what ends up happening is he's like, oh, you fall hard, you should be proud. And then Fury sang American Pie, which was by Don McLean. That was really unexpected and weird. That was weird. Then McIntyre said, I felt I didn't win, but one day I'll win the Universal title. And then they sang an Oasis song, and that was the end of the show. Like, the show was great, but that ending was really weird. Because that ending, when they were singing, legitimately felt like it really felt like a segment that they would normally save for, like, the live crowd. Like, that was obviously for the live crowd, but they were still recording. We were still live on pay-per-view or on Peacock, whatever. And it felt like a dark segment. Like, when you see The Rock and Austin playing the guitar and stuff like that, that's what it felt like. But it was for the crowd, but they showed it to us. I feel like it might have been better if they didn't show it to us and maybe showed the crowd, because I didn't really understand, because Drew had just lost, and I guess Fury gave him like a nice little pep talk. But I mean, I guess they maybe did this. They didn't want to do it on SmackDown, and maybe Fury didn't want to come down. But it just felt weird. It was not bad. I'm not saying it was bad, but it was weird. It was something they don't normally do. So who is next for Roman Reigns? Karrion Kross is there. We might have a rematch with Drew coming up. There's a lot of things that could happen, but I feel like Drew's going to feud with the rest of the bloodline, including all the new members, whoever else they may be that show up, because the bloodline's getting bigger. Anyways, good show. Very, very good show. Triple H era continues to be awesome. Let's see where it goes. Thanks very much. Take care, and I'll see you soon.